Hello everyone, welcome back to Scarecrow Joe's studio in the paper mache owl tutorial. In the last segment, which was part 2, we started laying on some clay. We did some sculpting. I showed you how to apply texture using some various tools and different things that you may already have at your disposal. So we worked on that and we put in some texture in the front and in the back of the body of the owl. In this third segment here, we're going to be working on creating our eyes. So hopefully you have those ready and have applied at least one layer of strip mache to these. And also that you have on hand your little glass flat back domes in the desired size for your project. I will also show you how to prep and create the newspaper strips for the feathers that we're going to be applying in the wings and in the ears or horns, whatever you want to call them, on the owls themselves. We probably won't be getting into actually attaching the feathers. Not quite sure yet. I'm trying to keep these tutorials within 40-minute segments, so we'll see how far we get. And we'll also be creating some feet with some talons as well on this sculpture today. Other than the little glass domes that you'll need for your eyes, the other tools and materials that you'll want to have on hand for this segment of the tutorial is also the glitter for your eyes. I've chosen this kind of a darker sparkly green for my eyes on this particular owl. You'll want to have some binder clips and of course some newspaper, because we are going to be creating the feathers today. I'll show you how to mass create those so you're not spending a lot of time trying to create individual feathers, but you're going to have a big stack of them when we're done, and you'll want to keep them all together, so having a binder clip or paper clips is going to come in handy for you. You're going to want to have a piece of just a white piece of paper, like printer paper, on hand, and a marker, Sharpie, black Sharpie marker, a regular ballpoint pen or some kind of an ink pen or marker. You'll want some scissors, newspaper of course, and then you're going to want some sort of adhesive to apply the glitter and then the pupil of the eye that we're going to be creating. So I have here some Mod Podge. This works really well. And also I've been using some 3M Super 77 spray adhesive, so if you have a spray adhesive, that will work well. But whatever type of glue that you have on hand, as long as it dries clear, you're in good shape. It could be Elmer's glue, whatever you might have on hand that dries clear. That's the key. Other than those basic materials, you're going to want some paper mache paste and also your paper mache clay. And that will pretty much sum up tools and materials that you'll need today. So let's get started on our eyes and creating our feathers. I'm going to start out by showing you how to make the feathers that we're going to be inserting into our wings and the top of the head area of our owls. These I have cut out. They're basically templates, and I did provide a template page, the feather shape. It's very, very simple, and I just cut out basically the pattern out of thin, flexible cardboard. I have one, as you can see, that's slightly thinner and slightly longer than the other. I like to use the slightly longer and thinner feathers for the top of the head of the owl, and use the slightly shorter and a little bit wider feathers for the actual wings. So many of you might be asking what the length is, the size, and all that stuff. So this one is approximately 2.5 inches long. This is the longer one. And this one's just a little bit shorter, just a tiny bit shorter than that. And then we have about, in the widest point here, 3/4 wide, and just slightly over 3/4 wide on that. So those are the templates here that I'm going to use to make the patterns on newspaper. Now this is a very simple way to create a bunch of these at the same time. So I have some newspaper here, and it's just folded in half. They normally come with some sort of a fold, and this actually has 2 sheets that are folded together. So this is the folded end, and this is the cut end or the open end. Now you can layer these up. So, you know, I want to do more than two layers at a time. So pretty easy to do that. I'm going to take another 2 sheets that are already folded in half, and they have a fold up here and then the cut bottom. So I'm just going to open that up and stick my other 2 sheets in there just like that. So I have my good stack of folded newspaper. You don't want to go too thick, because then it's going to become cumbersome for you to cut through and create your patterns and things like that. So I like to start off, and I want to measure an area. So from the very top here, I'm putting my feather on the folded edge, and I'm going to leave myself a little bit of room down there. So I'm just going to take my pen and I'm just going to make a mark. I'll leave about that much room. And then to make this easier to deal with, I'm just going to take my scissors and just cut right across. Set this aside, because we can use this, and you will be using more newspaper, not just this one piece here. But very simple. You start at one end, take my feather template, and I'm just going to start tracing out the feathers. They don't need to be perfect. Don't worry about perfection. Give yourself a little bit of space. I have my feathers traced out all the way across, and I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. If you have a big stack like this, you have a paper clip or a binder clip, that's really going to help you out. What I like to do to keep this folded together nicely, because it will shift on you, you want to make sure that it doesn't shift on you. I'll just take this, and on the bottom here, I'll just clip it. That's going to hold that in place. I'm going to start on one end. I'm right-handed, so that's the side I'm going to start on. And I'm going to create 2 piles. One's going to be a discard pile, which is the trimmings of the feathers that I don't want. And the other pile is going to be the actual feathers. When you're doing this, make sure that you are keeping your feathers together. Try not to separate them. So don't pick them up and start separating them. Leave them like this. Leave them together, and you're going to start creating a stack. But that's basically what I do, and I just find this to be the easiest way. The feather work is probably, well, not probably, it is the most tedious part of this project, creating this. But the end result is really, really cool. So as you can see, as I'm cutting discard into one area, and then I'm shifting a bit, and my feathers are falling into another pile. So just go ahead and do that, and then as you move on down your newspaper here, you take your clip and just move it over. I just find that to be really, really helpful in keeping it together, and I don't have to constantly think about the newspaper shifting on me and becoming extremely uneven. Doesn't have to be perfect, but this is what I find to be the easiest. Okay, I have a little pile of feathers here. So now, instead of just cutting out one at a time, because you're going to need a lot of these. So you're going to want quite a few. But instead of cutting one at a time, now you have a bunch. And they're hooked together like this. So basically 2 in a pattern like that. Because we're going to be dipping these in paste and then actually sticking them into wet clay. You're going to want to bulk them up. So you don't want to just have one single piece of newspaper or even 2. You want to have at least 2 of these, so you could separate these, but you want 2 together to dip in the paste. And then what we do I'll go into this more when we get to that point. It's just an explanation because some of you are probably thinking I'm crazy, but you're just going to have to trust my process. So when you fold it, you have this little layered, when you fold it, kind of crimp it like this, you have this little layered effect. When they're wet, you're still going to have that little layered effect, but it's going to be much thicker. And it's much more pliable than using cardboard. You could use thin, flexible cardboard, and I have done that, but I find that this, using the newspaper, the end result is much more pleasing to the eye and looks more full as far as bulking out the wings and attaching feathers to wings. So I would recommend that you do at least 2 together, keep 2 sets together, but you could go as far as 3. I wouldn't go any more than 3 or 4. Yeah, I'm just going to go with the 2 sets. So I'm going to keep 2 sets of them together, and I'm just going to make piles. You don't want to just separate all of them, but I'm going to make piles, and then I will use a binder clip and clip them all together. But make sure that you're going to need a lot of them. If you want your wings to look really full, you're going to need quite a few of these. And with your newspaper here that you've already cut across, and it no longer has that folded edge, you always want to have a folded edge so that when you cut, they're together like that. Get your newspaper folded in half again. Make sure that you have enough room on the bottom there. So I do have enough room. Trace out all the way across and do the whole process over and over again until you feel you have enough sets of feathers to incorporate into your owl. Okay, let's move on to the eyes and do some prep work on these. So I have my glass cabochons, flat domes, and I have a couple coins here. I have a nickel and I have a penny. I'm going to use that to kind of gauge how big I want the pupil of my eye to be. So there's the nickel, there's the penny. Nickels and pennies don't buy very much anymore, but we can use them for other things. So if I place my glass dome over each one of these, I have a reference now on how big my pupils will be. So if you want a bigger pupil, and you've used the same size, obviously the sizes of your glass domes could be different depending on what size you have picked out for your eyes. So get a dime even. If you want a bigger pupil, use a bigger coin. If you want a smaller pupil, use a smaller coin or something else that you could trace on. Here's a dime. I think I'm going to go with the dime as the diameter of my pupil. This is a little too big, and that's just way too big. So I'm going to go with the dime. Very, very simple. Just going to take my dime here, and I'm going to use that as my template. Taking my pen. And I need 2 of them because I have 2 eyes and I want 2 pupils. I'm going to fill in the pupil with using black Sharpie, but I don't want to completely fill in the entire pupil. I want to leave a little bit for like a speck of light, and you'll see what I mean when we're done creating these eyes. So I think right about there, just a little speck. Kind of do them right in there, just like that. I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to fill in all of these areas. Again, does not need to be perfect. Alright, I just wanted to give you a look at the eyes one more time. So inside of this glass ball here, where it looks like it's inside, right? The pupil. So that's basically what that is. You can see that it does have like a little speck of white in there. Just to give it a little bit more depth, dimension, and like it's a little, you know, speck of light in there. So once you have your pupils created, I would let them sit so they're dry, you're not smudging everywhere, and you don't get the speck of light that you've created smudged in with the black. So let it dry a couple of minutes, and then take your scissors and cut both of them out. Alright, I've got my Mod Podge, and I'm going to be applying the Mod Podge to my glass here with an old paintbrush. This is the flat part, obviously. There's the concave part. The flat part is where you want to apply the glue. And before you start applying any glue or anything, make sure that the piece that you're applying it to, the glass, is clean, so that you get a good bond. There isn't any dust on it or anything like that. So this Mod Podge, when it dries, it will dry clear. So I'm going to take one of my pupils. You can see that's the side, that's the back side of the piece of paper, so you can still see a little of the white shining through. So I want to apply the front of it where the white paper is coming through. So I want the bolder side of it facing down. So I'm going to go right in the center, press in my little eyeball there, and using that piece of paper to catch the excess glitter, I'm just tapping a bunch of glitter just all over this. You want it to be very, very saturated. Same thing with the other eye or eyepiece. Going in with my Mod Podge. Any glue or adhesive that dries clear is going to be fine for this. Get my pupil, center it, press it on there. While that's still wet, I'm going to just take and sprinkle all over this more of my glitter. I'm going to set these aside and let them dry for a good probably hour. Not going to mess with them. I'm just going to let them dry, and then about an hour I'll pick them up, knock off the excessive glitter, and then because the glitter is falling onto this piece of paper, I can just make a taco shape with my piece of paper and pour the excess glitter right back into my little container. Alright, just a word of caution if you're using this technique for your eyes. When you apply your pupil, you really want to make sure that you're pressing down that pupil in there and that it's making contact on all of the edges of the pupil, so that when you do sprinkle on your glitter, the glitter doesn't end up sliding inside there. So I had to do one of these over again because I wasn't careful enough and I got glitter inside there and it just didn't look right. So word of caution if you're using this method. There is another alternative to this, or the same size as the eyes that I have in this sculpture here. So that would work perfectly fine. So if you didn't want to hassle with the glitter and all that stuff, you could go ahead and purchase some of these. And they probably come in different diameters as well. Okay, we're going to continue on with our prep work of the eyes. We're going to work on the inside here. I'm going to take a thin amount of clay and press that in on the inside of the eyelid here. You don't need a whole lot of clay on the eyelid, so just a thin amount. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start pressing on with a thin amount of clay on the interior of the eye here. I'm not going to be able to sculpt out anything on the back or on the outer eyelid. You got to do one section at a time and then let them dry. Otherwise, they're going to get all messed up when you try to handle them when they're still wet. Alright, so I'm going to go in with my paste and my paintbrush, applying a little bit of pressure just to smooth in that clay, or smooth out that clay a little bit. I'm going to take my handy little plastic sculpting tool here, so smooth it a little bit more. Just kind of smoothing down these edges. Anytime where you have to stop and start again and the clay is going to dry and there's areas where you're going to have to go back and apply more clay to a different area, you want to make sure that you're kind of blending in as best as you can so that you don't have these big ridges when your clay dries. Alright, I'm kind of looking at the thickness there. I want more. So basically I'm just gonna, right in the center, putting in some more clay right in the center there. Smashing it down. I'm creating kind of a dome shape. So a dome shape in the center, and then where it kind of tapers off around the edges. That's probably good enough. Again, with my paste. So this is how it looks now. I've got that all smoothed out. And this is kind of the test here. For me, it's going to be a test on, did I get these glass domes that are too big, and are they going to look funny? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take another one of these glass domes. And whether you choose to be using the pre-printed eyes like this or the glass domes, you're going to need to do this step. You want to build up that mound of clay in the center, and then not using the actual, if you're using the glitter method especially, not using that actual eye that has the glitter, using the glitter on that. You don't want to press that one in on the wet clay because you're going to end up having problems with the glitter. But you probably have some extra ones. This is extra. I'm going to go ahead and basically press that in. And I'm creating an indentation. So there's basically the eye. A little bit more work to do. It's a little bit more misshapen from the smushing down there, but that's basically what it looks like. I need to make a decision here. Is that too big? Because it takes up the whole eye. I'm gonna hold this up here. The eye is going to be considerably bigger. I don't know. I'm not loving it. Big decisions for me here. So I have one that I screwed up on. It's all milky. It's all milky in there. I wasn't patient enough, but I'm just going to go ahead and use this one. Stick that in there. Let's see if I hold that up. I think it makes it look a little cartoonish. I'm not thrilled with it. I think I'm gonna go with my other set of eyes. Yeah, what I'm probably gonna end up doing is making 2 sets. I'll do one set like this, and I'll do another set with some of these, and at the end of the day, I'll figure out which ones I actually want to attach. And that's the really cool thing about creating these pieces separately, is because you have the opportunity to reevaluate. Both of them are done. Got my clay on them. They're all smoothed out. I'm ready to make the indentations here. On these ones, I don't know. I'm still like up in the air on what I want to do as far as the eyes are concerned. But whatever I do, I'm going to make 2 sets of them. Alright, I don't know why I'm struggling with the eyes all of a sudden. You know, I had a concrete plan. I've done this before. And all of a sudden, suddenly I'm just like, I don't know. I'm sort of questioning myself. So I have, I brought up some pictures of owls here. The eyes, I mean, they have big eyes, right? They have pretty big eyes. Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and make 2 sets like I was saying. Anyway, back at it. Get all this stuff out of my way. Alright, so I'm going to take one of my larger glass domes. I'm going to set them in the center here. I just want to press down gently. And then remove it. Do the same on the other side, or on the other eye. Gently press down. And then gently remove it. You can't really tell, but it does create like a very smooth surface, or smoother surface, in which after these are dried and painted, because they're going to be completely separate. It's going to be a completely separate element. So once they're dried, painted, all that good stuff ready to attach, but before we attach them to the actual owl, that's when I will glue in the eye. So I have my indentation, a little bit of an indentation. I still have room on the edges here to play around a little bit, build up some areas if I wanted to, but that's pretty much it on the eyes. Sorry, that was very, very long and drawn out, but I'm just being indecisive right now on what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and set these in front of a fan so that they can dry, and also so that my other little one that I created and then messed up and had to do another one, that's going to be dry completely, so that both of them will be dry completely and ready to be attached to the actual eye. Alright, so I didn't get to cover as much as I wanted to cover in this segment of the tutorial. That happens. You did get to witness me actually fumble around and be indecisive, but you know, that really is part of the artistic process. Sometimes you look at things and you want to reevaluate, and sometimes you make choices and then you decide that you're going to do something else, so you have to pivot and kind of move on from there. Life isn't perfect, and neither is art. So next segment, which is going to be coming up as soon as I can get back into it, I promise you that we will be getting more in depth in sculptural details of the head, and depending on the time and how long it takes, we'll be getting into creating some feet, and then we'll be progressing on in a separate segment on the actual wings themselves. That's going to be a big one. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so that you know when all of the segments of this tutorial are uploaded, and all the other tutorials as well. Until then, I thank you for watching. Until next time, in the next segment, I thank you for watching as always, and I will catch you in the next one.